It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Good show for you today. Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. Let's see what we got going on here. Well, my water got in the picture. That's a little unusual. Normally, I'm able to hide things over in the corner. Apparently, not the case today. Beautiful day. Good weather for a March the 7th? 20 days away from the opening of the Major League Baseball season. Welcome into the Fordyce Center. We got a good show for you today. We'll say hello right off the bat to Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, how are you?
Great, George. How you doing?
Good. I got one for you. I know I want to take a moment right at the beginning of the show and pass on my condolences to the family of Ronnie Pritchard. Coach Pritchard was a coach of ours at BGA, passed away 82 years old. And
Wow.
One of my great memories, Kelly, when I was in 9th grade, I want to say he taught history. Not that I learned anything. I was a little bit of a slow learner. But he
Shocking.
got us on one of the first days. He went around the room and asked everybody what they wanted to do, for a living. And you had, bankers and lawyers and whatever. And all of a sudden, little Big Mouth here says, I'm going to be a sportscaster. And he was like, really? And so he asked me a bunch of questions. And it was as though I got a free pass from that point on. He's okay. He's in sports.
You got to believe it to achieve it.
Absolutely. So, it was kind of hard to see earlier today because he was a wonderful friend as well as teacher. And Kelly, when I graduated, he presented me with one of the big awards at graduation was the School Spirit Award.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that one fit me.
Yeah, because it wasn't on the basketball court.
Oh, I dare say out on the goal behind the football stadium it was.
It might have been then, but not in the real gymnasium.
It never got to varsity status. No, I don't think anybody in their right mind would have let that happen. But anyway, such as it is, how are you today?
Okay, man, I'm good. I feel everything is good because I got the weather report from Daniel Breezy, otherwise known as George Plaster.
So, Billy, this happened last night.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to read you a text during the, as we're getting ready for this big banquet, which went great. National Football Foundation. This is a text from our friend, Mr. Holcomb.
Oh, you're not going to bring that up, are you? You know who was egging me on too was Steve Hutchinson. He's like, "Hey, where's George, man? Get him going." He always looks to me to get you going.
It says, "Let's go." You have to clear this stuff with certain people. The only reason Kelly gives me a good grade on it was we were done at 8:17.
Wow.
8:25.
No, 8:17. Believe me, I looked.
You did?
Yes.
Well, you're yeah, it was really good, man. I mean, it's getting tidy. We're doing he's doing a good job. But yeah, Steve kept looking at me and going, "Hey, where's George? Get George. Let's go. Let's go." Because he's like me. We're all impatient. And we know that we've been there before where that thing's been 9:30, 9:45,
Oh
almost
God.
10, which was
Yeah.
ridiculous. And now you have rolled that thing. It's the key is getting people into the place.
Into
It's
the
6:30
ballroom.
and let's go. And then you're relying on Wally. And Wally was like, he was comatose almost last night. He had so much to do. I mean, his face was an utter just blank stare. Like,
The
you know, let,
glaze.
yeah, let us run this thing, Wally. Go sit down, man. We'll get it underway.
What they're talking about for the viewer, this is the National Football Foundation and College Football Hall of Fame banquet, which who's who of people, Dr. Kevin Dyson, Eddie George, Maurice Fitzgerald, Catfish Pender from also from Pearl, who got that award.
Chief Drake,
Clark Lee, Boots Donley. I mean, that's a cool event to go to. I need to go to one of these.
You were invited. Don't sit there and act like you weren't.
You won't like it, Billy. I mean, I promise you won't like it. I mean, it's okay though. I mean, we've over the years, I've been involved 16. I think George said he's been involved 19.
I think
but
19,
since George has been emceeing that thing, and we don't have people getting up there speaking and having these dissertations, we have tightened that thing up, and it's nice.
So one of the better moments was Kelly and Steve Hutchinson do a great job with the high school kids that are getting awards, and they take a picture with them. And then they go off this way on the stage. Well, there was a big kid who decided he was going the other way, and Kelly keeps trying to get him to, no, go back here. And finally, I just said, Kelly, this kid's big enough, he can go wherever the hell he wants to go.
And then the second kid that did that, I told Steve, I'm like, we've lost this battle, Hoss. Might as well let them go where they want to.
So Steve Hutchinson, first of all, inductee into the NFL Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, will be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame this December. Kelly, I think it's fair to say there was a point in his career where if you did a poll of players in the league and said, who is the best offensive lineman in football, he'd have gotten a ton of the votes.
Yeah, he was the best guard in football. There's no question. I mean, he was really, and I played with him for a year in Minnesota. So we got to know each other when I was at Minnesota and at Eden Prairie at our facility. But I remember he's got a son now that's getting recruited in college, and we all had children. And I can remember us going out for a festival. It was like a autumn festival or something like that, where we hunt. I think it was before Halloween. We all went out and hunted for pumpkins, and our kids ran around and acted crazy. And it's funny that now that Steve's living in Nashville now, and now he's part of the National Football Foundation, which I don't know how much longer he's going to be here because he's a Florida guy. And I can see him moving. I think he's probably going to move back to Florida at some point. But what he did in football, he was really good. Like, he was considered the best guard in football. And I played with some guys that were Michigan guys that played with him. And they just talked about how good he was. And he really was. He went to Seattle, got drafted by those guys, and then went to Minnesota. And then he finished his career here with the Titans. But you talk about a professional and was really good at what he did. That's Steve Hutchinson.
So it can now be told a day after. If any of you are there last night and you're wondering why the Admiral Lawrence Award got placed out of place, it's very simple. I went from page 10 to page 12, and I never caught it. And I want to thank Reno Benson, who whispered to me while somebody else was speaking, you skipped an award. And I'll tell you, when you get that, your deodorant stops working.
It's not that big of a deal.
No, but and I'm like, okay, where are we? How do we?
Well, because there's,
how do we do this without everybody going, he screwed up?
There's a kid associated with that.
Well, everybody knows you screwed up. Everybody was looking at each other. I looked at Coach Don and like, what is this guy doing here? And then when your boy Bob got up, he was good last night. He was good. He just presented his award. I thought he was going to get up to to the mic and go with it, because he normally does that. Yeah, he normally does a dissertation, but good for Bob.
Billy, do you have an update of any usefulness?
I do. We're going to kick it off with a March Madness scoreboard update.
Oh, this is big.
This is big time.
Listen closely, all of you.
Yeah, everybody. Brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. Visit her at mortgageladyusa.com.
Say it again. Do it right.
mortgageladyusa.com. There it is. But we kick off. We already got two finals today. We got one in St. Louis. Missouri State has beaten Murray State 60-35.
Murray State better get their act in gear, because they are getting their butt handed to them in that conference.
Also, Georgia Southern defeated South Alabama 76-71 in the Sun Belt tournament down in Pensacola. So those are the two finals so far. And coming up here, actually pretty soon, Coastal Carolina and Louisiana, also in the Sun Belt down there in Pensacola, and then Belmont and Valpo. I'm not sure when this will start. It'll probably be a little bit later than 2:30, just because that one went final here recently. But we might have a live report from.
There's no might to it. We will.
Kelly, will.
We have reporters all over the country.
Oh, do we?
Yes, we do.
Comprehensive coverage.
If they're
it's on a volunteer basis, that's for sure.
It pretty much is. We have a reporter in St. Louis. We have a reporter in Greenville. Is it Greenville? Where's SoCon?
SoCon is in Asheville.
Asheville, Greenville, whatever.
Two different places, George.
Yeah. Keep going.
Also on the women's side of things, Kentucky and Tennessee are at the half. Lady Vols lead the Lady Cats 28-26. So they are at the half in Greenville. That's in Greenville. And then later today, you've got Texas A&M. No, Texas A&M actually just went final. So they've already had a final. A&M beat Mississippi State 72-56 earlier today. So the Aggies are moving on. In Greenville tonight, Vanderbilt and Florida. Vanderbilt's they're probably going to make the tournament, I would guess. I mean, 20 wins this season on the women's side, so they've got Florida tonight.
I saw one of their bracketology people on the women's side 11, saying they're on the bubble.
Well, I think they're last, one of the last 4 teams in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they'll be in, I think, but yeah, not by much. So that's your first March Madness scoreboard update, brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. Visit her at mortgageladyusa.com. All right.
That was better.
Yeah. Also, last night, Tennessee, we've got to get to this on the men's side. They won its 6th outright SEC regular season championship in program history with a 7-point win at South Carolina last night. Their first one since 2008. So they won it outright in 2008. They had a share in 2018. So it's been that long since Tennessee has won it outright. They haven't won it outright since Rick Barnes has been there, as successful and as many wins as he's had. But this feels like one of his best teams, and they've got a real chance to be a number 1 seed after last night.
If they beat Kentucky and they go 4-0 in beating Auburn, at Bama, at South Carolina, home against Kentucky, if that doesn't get you a 1 seed, wow.
Nothing will.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a crazy 4 games, and if they go 4-0, they should get a 1 seed, in my opinion.
Yeah, and after the game, Rick Barnes isn't usually one to say something that makes your eyebrows raise, but he said, this is important. I'm proud of the guys, but we want to be playing on Monday night in the national title. So he didn't say national title, but he did say we want to be playing on Monday night. So that's and like I said, Barnes doesn't typically, come out and say things like that, but I think he wants to instill some confidence in his team. And I mean, they are really good.
There are probably 10 to 12 teams that realistically could play on that Monday night, and Tennessee has become one of them.
Absolutely.
This year.
Absolutely. So congrats to Tennessee. They've got Kentucky on Saturday in a big one at home. I think early line is they're a 9-point favorite in that one, which is wild.
Wow.
But that's how good they are. So they got the Cats on Saturday. In the NHL, the Preds host the Sabres tonight, trying to get back on track after the loss on Tuesday. But the bigger news today, pretty decent-sized trade for the Preds. According to Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet, They've traded for Chicago's Anthony. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. Beauvillier.
Bolivier.
So Anthony Bolivier from the Blackhawks to the Preds. The Preds are sending their 2024 fifth-round pick to Chicago.
Those who know a lot more than me say that there could be some real upside to this guy. I don't pretend to know. I know about the Preds. Do I know about other teams? Not much. But those who know say there could be some upside here. So good for them.
So obviously at this point right now, they're buying in.
Yeah.
They're trying to go after this thing.
Yeah, I would say slight buying.
Okay.
I mean, I would be shocked if there's some blockbuster.
Yeah.
You
Add
just
a
need
piece or two, maybe.
Okay.
And that's because of their run. I mean, they don't go on that 8-game win streak. I don't know that they're buying.
Oh, good Lord, no.
No.
And so
Might have been the other way around.
exactly. But he's 26 years old, so still pretty young. He's got familiarity with Barry Trotz. He was drafted by Barry Trotz when Trotz was the head coach with the Islanders in 2015.
I saw Bolivier Newton-John in concert once.
Oh my gosh.
Good grief.
Hey, get him off the screen for a second, Billy. He's got to go. I mean,
Get him out of here.
get him out, dude. Are we serious?
Oh, man. Also,
These work better on radio.
they do.
Thank you.
We got a big one on the east side of town tonight. Nashville SC. They're preparing for a packed Geodis Park tonight when Inter Miami Lionel Messi back in town tonight for the CONCACAF Champions Cup round of 16 match.
What does a ticket cost if you go on a StubHub? What would be, because Messi a year ago, when he came in here and messied up things for Nashville SC, because if I remember correctly, they won that game.
They did.
Over
I was
Nashville.
there.
Okay. What do you think? And you don't have to do it now. We'll maybe come out of the break and get that.
Well, I'm
Just
seeing
kind of curious.
early right now, 130, 140 for the upper deck. So it doesn't look like anything crazy. I know when he was in town, I guess last year, right? Or was it earlier this year? I don't know how their season works, but it was a lot higher than just
last
130.
season.
Last
August, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And, that
Okay.
was MLS, his first time. He's still going to be hot. He's the greatest player ever, arguably. But yeah, so that'll be tonight. And again, it'll be crazy over there. Should be packed. So we'll see what happens. But that's all I got, George.
Okay. After the break, we'll be joined by former Mississippi State head basketball coach Richard Williams. We'll talk a variety of college basketball things with him. So stick around. You'll enjoy this on the George Plaster Show.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456 7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. So during the commercial break, I got to thinking as we head down to Starkville, Mississippi in just a moment. Kelly, I was in my mid-20s, and C.M. Newton basically put me in as Vanderbilt's color announcer in basketball. And it was basically, I certainly didn't have the credentials for it. I may have had broadcast skills, but one of my jobs was to interview the opposing coach for the pregame show. And going around the SEC, there were 3 or 4 coaches who were really nice to me. Don DeVoe at Tennessee was great. Hugh Durham at Georgia. Wow, what a storyteller he was. And Wimp at Alabama was great. You know, he'd have
I can imagine.
He'd have the plaid coat.
Yeah.
It was wild. Richard Williams at Mississippi State was always unfailingly kind to me, willing to put up with stupid questions, and it was always fun to go to Starkville. He joins us from down there. Richard, how are you?
George, I'm doing great, but I have to say that you might be the first media person that ever says I was kind to the media. So I appreciate you saying that.
You know who was not kind to me?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I would fall into that category.
No, you were actually very nice. Think about a coach in that league that would tell a 23-year-old to go stuff it.
Well, the first year I was in the league, which was a long time ago, I would think Norm Sloan.
You got it.
He was hard to deal with in the meetings. I promise you now, he really was. So that'd be my first guess.
Well, your first guess was the right guess. Richard, I went up to him, and for those younger, Norm Sloan had won a national title at NC State and returned back to Florida. So I go up to him, and I'm about to give him the speech about how much I enjoyed his national title team. And I'm sort of, Richard, I'm getting it out there that, you know, I need to tape a pregame. And he told me to go stick it.
Well, coaches, you know, just before the game, George, to be very honest, coaches don't typically like to be interviewed. I didn't particularly like doing my own pregame show, much less doing the opponent pregame show. So maybe that's why I told you to stick it. But I didn't know him well now. And he was only in the league, I think, that first year I was in the league, maybe the first 2 years. But I know in the SEC meetings in Sandestin, Florida, he was angry now. He was hard to get along with. He really was.
Richard, the other thing that went on, we would have the SEC broadcasters meetings at the tournament, and I'm sitting between two legends, John Ward at Tennessee and Kaywood Ledford at Kentucky. And Kaywood, I'm 23, and he turns to me and he goes, "So what's your story?" And I said, "I've been listening to you since I was 8 years old." And he throws up his hands to his eyes and he goes, "You have ruined my day."
I can understand that. People tell me those things now. Hey, Coach, I watched you coach when I was 8 years old, 10 years old. I watched your Mississippi State teams play. So I know the feeling, George. I understand exactly where he was coming from.
And so now the roles have been reversed, and you've actually done radio work, haven't you?
Well, I've been doing the color on the Mississippi State Radio Network, Learfield Network, for 8 or 9 years now. I started when Jim Ellis was still doing the play-by-play, and now I work with Neil Price, who I think is really, really good.
He is.
And so it's something I enjoy doing. When I retired, my wife and I moved to the Gulf Coast, moved to Bay St. Louis, and I didn't have any hobbies, and started doing some TV work, some color TV work, and I did some had a TV show in Jackson actually for 3 years with a producer there that we did it's SEC basketball, and that was really enjoyable. And then when Scott Strickland was the athletic director at Mississippi State, he asked me to do the radio, and so I've been doing it since then and really enjoy it.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on this. I've told people that I thought SEC heyday, what I saw in the late 80s, was an absolute just plethora of great power forwards, that it was a great power forward league, and it was a lot of fun. And I don't know that I thought it had really ever gotten back to quite that level, but boy, this year it sure has.
Well, there's some really good players in the league this year, and I mean they're always athletes in the SEC, always, since I've been following Southeastern Conference basketball when I was a kid growing up in Mississippi. There have been great athletes in it, and you think about when I was coaching here, and Wimp and I are still close friends. Sonny and I are still close friends, and we talk a lot. It sounds like a bunch of old retired coaches, but you think about some of the teams that Wimp Sanderson had and some of the players he had at the University of Alabama. Think about Sonny Smith, some of the players he had there. You can just go down the list. I'll give an example, and this is not the 80s. This is in '96 when we went to the Final Four.
Right.
We beat Kentucky in the SEC tournament championship game in New Orleans. That was Kentucky only lost 2 games that year. In that one game, George, in that Sunday afternoon in New Orleans, 11 players played that eventually played in the NBA. Now, Kentucky had 9 of those 11, so they had a bunch of them. I don't know if there are 11 NBA players in the league right now, but now that's not to say it's not a very good league. There are some really good players, and it's a very competitive league. And I think the offenses this year are better than they've been since I've been doing the radio. Just a lot of teams can score this year. So it's such a good league now, and you look at the coaches in the league. I mean, you have some outstanding coaches in this league now. We always had good coaches. Back in the day, we had really good coaches, Hall of Fame guys. And there's some guys coaching this league right now that will eventually be in the Hall of Fame.
Richard, that year when you all made the run, I was there in New Orleans that day when you all kicked Kentucky around, and it shocked people. Would you all have made the Final Four if you hadn't beaten Kentucky?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. We started the season. We were Sweet 16 the year before, and started the season preseason top 10. But we lost 3 starters off that Sweet 16 team. The only 2 starters we had coming back, Eric Dampier and Darrell Wilson. That's 2 pretty good guys to start with. And so we weren't playing great early in the year. Now, we were, I think, 10-1 or something like that in non-conference play. But we weren't playing well. We were just winning because we were just better than those teams we were playing. Other than the only game we lost, this is a great story. The only game we lost in non-conference play that year was to Arkansas Little Rock. Guess who their coach was?
Oh, I know
Wimp
exactly
Sanderson.
Who it was. Wimp
Sanderson. Wimp called me. Richard, I need a guaranteed game. I know we can't beat you in Starkville, but I need some money. So we paid Wimp to go there and whip us in Starkville. So anyway, we start the season, start conference play, and we win a couple of games, and we went on a streak. We weren't playing very well. And part of it was because we started 3 new guys, including a guy from right there in Nashville, Tennessee, Dante Jones. And it took Dante a little while to adjust to the level of play and the expectations we had of him on both ends of the floor, not just one end of the floor. But once Dante figured it out, we got really good, George. I mean, we were good at the end of the year. So I would have to think we might have gone on to the Final Four, but who knows? You have no way of knowing that.
Okay, you want a good Wimp story back?
There are a bunch of them. Yes, tell me one.
Well, first of all, I used to love working with Wimp on CSS. I got a lot of games with him, and one of the producers said, "You're the one guy that enjoys him," which may have been true. I don't know. But when he was at Arkansas Little Rock, he had come off a game where he went ballistic. He had gotten, jobbed or felt like he'd gotten jobbed. And so now they're going to play Western Kentucky. And I'm doing the game back up to Bowling Green. I did a package of Western Kentucky television. And I remember my dad went with me on the trip, and I told him, I said, "Dad, I'm going to get our producer to put a camera on Wimp because the first time they miss a call, he's going to blow a gasket." So he did. It was great. We got this unbelievable shot. Lip readers, would have had a field day. And so I waited until after the game, and I said, "Wimp, I got to tell you, I knew it was going to happen." I said, "We had a camera isolated on you early in the game."
Well, there was no danger you ever caught a smile, now, that's for sure. Whether winning or losing. I've told Wimp, this is how close friends I am with Wimp, and I'm going to tell you why we're such close friends in a minute if I have time. But I've told Wimp, I said, "Wimp, you're just a miserable human being. You would be miserable if you were happy because you don't want to be happy." That's the kind of person he is. But if you really know Wimp, if you really get to know him, he is a darling. He is a wonderful person. He is a caring person. A quick story. When I became the head coach at Mississippi State, I was the part-time assistant, George. That's how bad our program was. And not a coach in this league knew who I was. We go to Sandestin, my wife and I check in the hotel for our first SEC meeting. Wimp and Annette are standing in the lobby. He introduces himself to me. Obviously, I knew who he was. And so we visited for about 10 minutes. We go up to the hotel room. About 30 minutes later, my phone rings. It's Wimp Sanderson. He said, "Annette and I would like to take you and your wife to dinner tonight." He didn't have to do that.
Right.
That's Wimp Sanderson. He was established. I was a nobody. And from that point on, we have been great friends. And that gives you a little bit of an idea of the real Wimp Sanderson.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to turn this into the Wimp Hour, but when Scott became the coach at Lipscomb, Wimp would come up here, but he couldn't handle sitting in the stands and watching his son. He would hide in the tunnel. And so one night they tell me, they say, "Wimp's in the tunnel." So I go over there and I said, "What the hell are you doing?" "I can't watch it." He's all nervous. And I'm like, "Why do you even come up here?" I did tell him once, "Richard, Wimp, your glass is not half empty. It's completely empty."
Always. And by the way, on that Lipscomb team, one of Scott's assistants was one of my players on the Final Four team, Jay Walton, who didn't play a lot, but he was actually the captain of our Final Four team. He was on that team, on that coaching staff. Sure was.
I did not know that. So we're going down memory lane, apparently, with former Mississippi State basketball coach Richard Williams. Kelly Holcomb is also on the show. Kelly, you didn't know we were going down memory lane, did you?
No, I didn't. Y'all might as well keep going because I have nothing on memory lane with that, man. I was a football guy, so y'all might as well just keep going. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Well, after you get through with any questions, I'm going to get him on Hugh Durham because I got a couple of great Hugh stories.
Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Hey, I don't want to get serious, but it seems like I ask everybody this, and we were talking about it last night at the banquet thing that George and I had to go to. But how difficult is it to coach in today's college climate?
I think it's very difficult. I think it's more difficult than when I was coaching in the league, and there are a lot of reasons for that. NIL, transfer portal, things like that. Last night before our basketball game, Chris Jans comes over to me before the game, and he says, I watch you get off that bus or get off that plane, and you really, I envy what you're able to do now. He said, but let me ask you a question. I've always wanted to ask you this question, Coach. He said, do you miss this part of it? Do you miss the coaching part of it? I said, Chris, I miss that part every single day because I love being on the floor teaching basketball. I love coaching during the games. I said, but I don't miss putting up with all the BS you guys have to put up with now. I wouldn't want to do that. So I think it's very, very difficult because of some of the things that are going on in the college game today.
I know that you guys talked about it earlier, but what do you think about the SEC this year? I mean, y'all talked about the coaches, man. They've got some really good coaches in the SEC men's basketball league now. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable. But is this one of the better? Because you're probably going to get 7 to 8 teams in the NCAA tournament. Is this one of the better years for the SEC basketball, men's basketball?
Well, I think it's a good year. There's no question about that. And I think it's one of the best years in a long time. But you have great coaches. There's no question about it. If you start down the list, and I'm not going to, but Rick Barnes has been in the Final Four. John Calipari is a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, you just guys like that, and you just go all the way down the line. The guy we have, Chris Jans, I think is an exceptional coach. He's really, really good. The guy at Alabama, Nate Oates, all those guys. But one of the things they're really into now is the analytics. And we didn't have all that. We didn't have all those statistics and analytics that they have now. And so they really study these things. And I know Nate Oates is big into the analytics. Buzz Williams, last night we played Texas A&M. He's got sheets of paper just looking at that stuff about what might happen. It's all into analytics. And our guy, Chris Jans, he'll come out to practice. He'll have 5 sheets of paper for practice with getting ready for the next opponent. And they know everything that the opponents are going to do. And my theory is teams now over-prepare because they have so much information with this synergy that they can just push a button on their computer and they can say, George Plaster shoots 50% going to his right. George Plaster shoots 35% going to his left. George Plaster makes 60% of his wide open catch and shoot shots. I mean, they have all that information. All they have to do is push a button and they get it. So I think a lot of times the coaches might over-prepare on the defensive end at the risk of not being quite as good offensively.
So if you were still coaching, how much of the analytics would you use, you think?
I think we would use it. I'm not sure I would use it to the extent that some of these coaches do because, they like Nate Oates, for instance, at Alabama. Layups, free throws, and three-pointers.
Yep. No
mid-range shots. I still think there's a place for a mid-range shot in the game. What if you have a player who is a really, really good player, great defensively, good athlete, physical, and those kind of things, but just can't make a three-point shot, but is really good in the 15, 16, 17-foot range? Are you not going to let him shoot that shot? I don't understand that part of it. And I know, all the analytics say that's not a good shot and those things, but I would lean on it some. I have a math degree, so I would lean on the analytics some, but not to the extent some of these coaches now do.
So this intrigues me, but George has been doing this a lot longer than I've been doing it. Just got into it with him, but I've never interviewed a guy that's been to the Final Four. How cool of an event was that? I mean, that's what you're shooting for. You're trying to get to the pinnacle of it, but how cool was it to get your team to the Final Four?
Well, it was a pretty neat deal. Now, obviously it's the only time in the history of our university we've been there. But to be very honest with you, once we got there, once we won the SEC tournament championship, and then we go on and go through the first 2 rounds and we qualify for the Final Four, we really had no idea what it was going to be like as far as the media coverage. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Starkville, Mississippi. I know George has. It's not the media mecca of the world. It's just mine. And even though our beat writer now, the beat writer for the statewide newspaper, lives in Starkville. We didn't have a beat writer that lived in Starkville. We might see our beat writer just once a week to play a home game. So there wasn't a lot of media coverage here at that time for us. We go to the final, we qualify to the Final Four. We come home the next Monday at practice. We have a table set up all across our floor. The national media is in here to interview our players. We fly into New York for the tournament. I get off the bus, go to the hotel. Mike Tirico sticks a microphone in my face. We weren't prepared for that. We weren't ready for that. So I know now why coaches that go back the second time are better prepared for what they're getting ready to face when they go to the Final Four. We weren't prepared for it. and I didn't prepare my team for it.
Yeah, I cannot imagine that. So this is my last one. Being in Tennessee, I'm a Rick Barnes guy. I don't really know him. I hadn't met him, but I know people that know him, and I would like for him to get over that edge. What do you think about his team? What do you think about this Connect kid that's come in from Northern Colorado that's kind of elevated them to this status so far?
I think he's the player of the year in the league. I think he's that good, and I think if he plays well in the tournament, they have a chance to go to the Final Four. They might even have a chance to win the tournament. One of the weaknesses I see in Tennessee, they don't shoot it consistently well, and they're relying so much on Connect and Zakai Ziegler. If you look at their stats from last night, Vescovy only, I think, took 3 shots. James only took 2 shots. Well, those guys were 2 of their leading scorers last year. And they're not getting any shots this year because Connect and Ziegler are getting all of them. So if either one of them had an off night, they could struggle a little bit. The other thing I think where they might struggle is their lack of depth in the post. When we beat them here in Starkville early in the year, they tried to play Tolu Smith one-on-one in the post, and he wore them out. He got both their post players in foul trouble. And I think let's say they get to Purdue, for instance, and that 7-5 guy. If you don't double team him, you got no shot. So I think they'll have to do that. Now, I'm a Rick Barnes fan. I love Rick Barnes. I think he is an outstanding coach. And people tell me all the time, so you can't coach them hard anymore. You can't coach players this year hard. I said, if you watch Rick Barnes coach, he coaches them hard. Now, he doesn't coach them unfairly, and I think there's a difference. I love the way Rick Barnes coaches his team, and I think they have a chance to go to the Final Four this year.
Coach, you were at the Tennessee-Mississippi State game, one of only 2 road losses in the conference this year for Tennessee, and you just started talking about Tolu Smith there and how Tennessee, thought they maybe didn't have to double him. What did Mississippi State do in that game? I know it was early in the conference season, but what did they do in that game that might be a little bit of a blueprint for maybe some teams in March that play them?
Well, throw the ball inside to a post guy, and if they try to play them one-on-one, if the post guy's good, and Tolu Smith's very good if you play one-on-one. I mean, he's exceptional. Not many teams play him one-on-one. Last night, Texas A&M, every time he touched it, he might have 3 people surrounding him. And Mississippi State hasn't shot the ball well this year as a team. And so you can play off of some of the perimeter players that we have, and it allows you to double team Tolu Smith and get players around him. But Tennessee tried to play one-on-one in the post, and he got both of their big guys in foul trouble, and they just didn't have any answers for him after that. So I think if Tennessee tries to play teams with big, skilled post players, if they continue to try to play them one-on-one, that could cause them some issues. But on the other hand, if Connect is playing well, and if he's making shots, they might get playing one-on-one because Connect might make up that difference because he is really, really good.
I knew this was going to be good. It's been even better than I thought it'd be. Richard, I want to throw one more at you. You ready?
Yes, sir.
January of 1984, my first visit to Rupp Arena as an announcer. I've got to interview Joe B. Hall. So you go through their sports information department, which is like going through the Kremlin, and they take me to this room, and we're going to get beat that night by about 40. They've got Sam Bowie and Melvin Turpin, and we don't. And so I'm brought into this room with Joe Hall, who's already got the rolled up program and looks unbelievably tense. And he's got the 3 assistant coaches standing behind him. And it's like, if you ask anything bad, we'll kill you.
That's Kentucky basketball. That's the way it is. But a quick story about Joe B. Hall. And I didn't know Joe B. Hall. Obviously, I knew who he was.
Sure.
So when I'm the coach at Mississippi State, it might have been my first or second year, Joe B. Hall was doing some TV, some SEC TV. We're playing, I think, at Ole Miss. And Joe B. Hall stayed in the same hotel we're in. And so I get the message he wants to talk to me that night before the game. So I go in there, and I'm a little intimidated, obviously, because, nobody knows who I am, but I know who Joe B. Hall is.
Sure.
And so we're just visiting. He was very pleasant, very pleasant. So I asked him, I said, Coach Hall, tell me, what is it like really to coach at Kentucky? He said, Richard, you wouldn't believe it. He said, winning the conference championship doesn't mean anything to those people. So if you don't win the NCAA championship, you're not national champions, it's not been a good year, according to Kentucky standards. Now, that's pressure.
That's
a lot
pressure.
of pressure.
Okay,
Yeah,
promise.
it really is. But he was as nice as he could be to me.
Promise me that sometime down the road you'll do this again with me. This was awesome.
Well, I appreciate it, George. I appreciate you having me. You just called me. I don't do much, just hang around. I'm up here in Starkville by myself in a condo. I rent a place up here during the season. And my wife was up here all last week, but she had to go home, had some things to do at home. So I'm up here by myself. So just give me a call.
Okay. I'm going to, and I'll see you at the tournament next week.
Looking forward to it.
That's former Mississippi State head basketball coach Richard Williams. Billy, I told you going in that this was going to be pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. You can tell he's been in the game for a while, and making a Final Four. I thought that was a good question, Kelly. And I mean, not every coach.
It was a really good question.
Can say they did that, and the media stuff. Mike Tirico sticking a mic in his face.
That's great.
That's pretty good stuff.
People don't understand that stuff though, man, because you're not ready for that stuff. Like the media attention that you're going to get the first time there. A lot of times that's like going to sleep. Leading the Masters on a Saturday night, going to sleep and having to sleep and wake up and being command of the Masters in the morning time, man, that's just an experience that you've got to go through.
Kelly, you want one more?
Tell me.
So the first time I meet Dale Brown, who, by the way, is a very likable person.
Yeah.
So I meet him. He takes me back to his office, beautiful office. And we're about to do the interview, and he opens up like Vandy's roster, and he goes, did CM bring, and he rattles off a name of a kid that's a walk-on. And so afterwards, I go to Coach Newton, and I said, Dale Brown wanted to know if you brought so-and-so on the trip. I said, why would he ask that? And Coach Newton goes, Dale's crazy. But
good stuff.
It was a different era. The coaches were not nearly as adversarial with each other as they are now. I can remember Coach Newton and Hugh Durham had breakfast the morning of a game they would play at night. And in fact, on this one particular night, Hugh Durham got thrown out of the game. He went ballistic on a call. We're in Athens, Georgia, and Hugh has been run. Official, you're out of here.
Yeah.
And so Hugh, instead of going toward his locker room, goes over just to piss off the officials, goes and shakes hands with everybody on the Vanderbilt bench. And I took my headset off to hear it, kind of like this, and I hear Coach Newton say, Hugh, you're going to have to go. They started laughing, and I'm like, that just does not exist anymore.
Well, that's what I was going to say, George. Those coaches back in the day, like you talk about Wimp Sanderson and some of those guys, Hugh Durham, they had personalities, man. Like these young guys nowadays they're so bureaucratic acting. They're like robots a little bit. And I don't know that's just the society. We talk about that all the time. We talk about society and where we're at, but those guys back in the day had personality, and it seems like these young guys nowadays don't have much of that.
You're right. There's still some that do. I think Bruce Pearl is probably one of them. Still kind of older guy. I think Musselman at times, you've seen him take his shirt off and do some, but there's not as much. You're right, Kelly. There's just not. It was almost the entire league had which personality is.
They're not having breakfast with each other the morning of the game.
No, even Kevin Stallings. I mean, he had some persona about him.
Kevin had some fun with several of them.
Yeah.
Which probably surprises some people.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a different era, and I'm glad I got to be a part of it because it was incredibly fun for a wide-eyed 23 to 26-year-old and to meet some of the other coaches around the league, from Norm Sloan, who told me to stick it. And I mean, he told me exactly where to stick it, my request. Kentucky, which felt like, the Politburo you were going through. And then guys like Richard, who just sit on the bench and say, when you want to do this. Sonny Smith, same way. Wimp was the same. We have no chance. Alabama would win that night by 20. I don't know how we could win.
That's how all of them were. Coach Donnelly used to be that way. We'd play a terrible team, and he'd be like, fellas, this team is so much better than we are. I'm like, what are you talking about? They suck.
Hey, we will continue a little of this with Coach B, who has even better stories than I do. We'll go stat of the day, and then we'll get to Coach B. I hope you've enjoyed it. No, it may not have been as X's and O's, but it's a history of SEC basketball that probably doesn't get told a whole lot. Stay tuned.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Close to the top of the hour on a Thursday. Before we get to stat of the day, a little March Madness scoreboard update brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. Visit her at mortgageladyyusa.com. Belmont is up big on Valpo early, 23-7, about midway through the first half there up in Evansville. So,
this might give them a chance to rest some regulars in the second half if it continues. Because if you got to play 4 games in 4 days, you need your guys as rested as humanly possible.
Yeah, you get up to a big lead, you can give those guys some rest. So we'll see if the Bruins hold on. Now, stat of the day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards. You can find them out in Shelbyville. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4500. 4304. All right. Let's see what we've got here. We're going – I need to get give me a second here, George. Do a little stalling here with Kelly while I get this.
Kelly, just your thoughts on that.
Yeah,
that's a finable. That's a finable offense for you right now for us having to stall there, Billy. That's what that is.
Like I've never had to stall for y'all.
You haven't.
Oh, I don't think you have.
We come prepared, big dog.
So you guys are perfect.
No question.
Okay.
You just hit the nail on the head.
All right. I think I've got it here. We're going a little NFL draft. Georgia's Brock Bowers is projected number 9 overall in ESPN's latest mock draft. In 2023, he tied who for the most career 100-plus receiving yard games in Georgia history since 2000 with 10 of them.
Kelly, help me. Help me help you.
I'm drawing a blank, man.
Who am I?
I can't remember some of the names. AJ Green.
Stop there. That's it.
That's final answer?
Darn
you think
tootin'.
so?
Well, let me put it this way. He was a heck of a receiver. I'm prepared to stop right there. I don't think there's a better one. Let's go with it.
Incorrect.
Fred Gibson.
Yep.
What year was that? 1981?
No, not that far.
90.
Looks a little bit
2000.
That was early.
That's right.
2000.
Well, I was just saying. I mean, I just brought that up, just trying to be funny. But
this question, we could have been here till midnight. We were not
seriously.
Fred Gibson.
Hey, did we get some? Clarification yesterday from Matthew about our
Kelly?
our beef we had with it? What's that?
You don't miss anything.
Oh, absolutely not.
No, I haven't gotten clarification yet. But
I'll clarify it for you. We were right.
That hasn't been confirmed.
Well, I don't need it confirmed.
Yeah, we don't need it
I
confirmed.
know enough about the circumstances. I had that one. Very seldom do I nail one. I nailed that one.
Whatever.
We welcome all of you into the second hour of the show that has been incredible so far, and it will continue to be because I may go down similar memory lane with Coach Ron Bargatze. Let's bring him up here. Coach B, had Richard Williams on.
All right.
Oh, it was great. So we got to talking. I asked him, I said, I want you to fill in the blank. I said, when I was in my 20s, one of my jobs as Vandy's color announcer was to get a pregame interview with the opposing coach. Which SEC coach told me to take my request and shove it up my...
Not Richard Williams.
Absolutely not.
No.
Coach B, think. This is easy.
What year would that have been?
January of 1984.
Man.
Think of who was in the league. Crusty old veteran.
Ed Murphy.
No, I liked Ed.
I did too.
Yeah, Ed was very nice. Stormin' Norman.
Oh, man. What a character. Norm Sloan.
I wasn't prepared for that one. So, what the heck? Since we've kind of gone down this road, and by the way, I like your Lamar Alexander shirt.
Thank you.
I know you're watching Belmont, aren't you?
Well, of course.
Yeah, what's the score now?
In the background.
What's the score?
Should be a pretty easy go today. They're up by 23.
Wow. We'll get a halftime report from St. Louis on the game. So, Coach B, right now, and this is a perfect segue to this. So you've got Tennessee having won the SEC regular season, and it brings older Tennessee fans back to a day of a Ray Mears. You had an incredible relationship with Ray Mears, and I want you to talk about it a little bit.
It didn't start off so wonderfully. I actually met Coach Mears and Coach Aberdeen my first year as a high school coach up in Newport, Tennessee. And we had a really I went to to a lot of coaching clinics and went to most of their ball games. They always left tickets for the local head coaches around East Tennessee, and so I really didn't know them very well. But when I got to Vanderbilt, I got to know them very well. Of course, I went from being a good friend with Stu Aberdeen to being the mortal enemy, and the relationship that Stu and I had was always very professional, very positive. But when Wayne Dobbs came in the picture, that was not the case. Actually, Stu sent Coach Dobbs a little note on one of his communication cards from the office of Stu Aberdeen with a piece of gum in it. Said, Coach Dobbs, this is really good for the bad mouth in case you want to use it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, but you and I both, me much later in his life, got to know Ray Mears and had a lot of fun with him. What was it like coaching against him?
Well, everything was very measured, and when they came out to practice, to start a practice, they would go through their pregame routine that they used in the game itself. So they practiced what they did in the pregame warm-ups during their daily practices. And they put a lot of value on making sure they made all their layups. It was crisp. There were no fumbled passes. Even the unicycle got a little workout in a lot of those practices. So they knew what they were doing.
Coach B, there was a story passed on. You've heard me tell it before, but I've never told it on the air. Ray Mears, on game night at Stokely Center, there were always these blue folding chairs. But if I remember correctly, Coach Mears had a director's chair, an orange director's chair that he sat in, correct?
Yes.
So the story went that when C.M. Newton was at Alabama, he sort of had gotten hacked off, that pregame, Ray Mears had gone and sat on Alabama's bench and watched Alabama. So
I know what's coming here.
So the next game, Coach Newton returned the favor and decides to go sit in Knoxville in Ray Mears's director's chair. Mears sent a manager out to see him to tell him, get out of that chair, and CM told the manager, if Ray wants me out of this chair, he can come and tell me himself. So they end up years later, after Coach Mears had retired, there was a lunch at Sweats, Kelly, with Coach Mears, CM Newton, and me. And so this story gets told, and Coach Mears looks at Coach Newton and goes, Newton, I knew I liked something about you.
Yeah, he loved gamesmanship. And, of course, I know that you probably have told the story of me watching their night before practice at Memorial Gym, too.
Let's hear this, because a new audience, younger audience, Billy, he's never heard it.
Well, it was first of all, when they started their night before practice on the road games, the managers were responsible for sealing off all doors, all any possible kind of communication or distraction. They brought their own music, and so I thought, well, heck, I think I will just, Tennessee never did anything surprising. They just did everything they did extremely well, and they didn't run a lot of plays. They got the ball to their best players at parts of the court that they wanted to get them to them for. And so we knew that Ernie Grunfeld was going to get the ball on the wing. We knew that Bernard was going to get it somewhere between the low post and the elbow. You couldn't stop them from getting the ball where they wanted to. and you sure as heck couldn't stop Ernie and Bernie very well once they got the ball in their hands. So I decided, well, I'm just going to watch this practice. So I got up on the crosswalk about 100 feet above the court at Memorial Gym, wearing all dark clothes and laying on my belly, watching their entire practice.
How old were you at the time?
Oh, I think I was about 26 or 7.
Okay.
And so I was very careful not to sneeze or make any noises, because I'm sure they had a sharpshooter somewhere in there looking for anybody that might try to break down their security.
Did your coaches know you were doing this?
No, that was totally done on my own.
Okay.
And I had in Jackson, Tennessee, when the Music City Jammers or the Jackson Jammers at that time were playing, he and I went to dinner, and I told him the story. He just chuckled. He says, I'm surprised you did that, but I'm not surprised it was done, because we've done a lot of the same type stuff.
So when you're up there on that catwalk, and I know where it is, man, it's a ways up there. Did you learn anything?
No, not a single thing, except that Doug Ashworth fumbled the ball out of bounds in one of their warm-up sessions. And so Stu Aberdeen charges on the court and says, okay, let's start again. They were 20 minutes into their pregame warm-up, and they had to do the whole thing all over again.
Oh, my God. That's hilarious. So where do you think, if you were going to rank Dalton Connect's year with any of the years that Ernie Grunfeld and Bernard King had up there, how would you rank it?
Well, they had a nice, Mike Jackson from Stratford High School was on their team, Johnny Darden. They had a cast of characters that filled in the fourth and fifth positions. There was a revolving door. And Johnny Darden from Springfield was their point guard, who was not allowed to shoot. That just wasn't in their plan. And he was not a bad shooter in high school, but he lost all the confidence he ever had by playing that system, because he just never really had the green light to shoot. And we took advantage of that some and beat them, and they beat us, and we beat them a lot. It was pretty even during those years. And so, but Dalton Connect is that missing link that put a good Tennessee team over the top and made them the champions they are. And do I ever love watching those guys play, because I think that Rick Barnes does the best job of anybody in the SEC in the discipline and the expectations and calling guys in on the carpet. Even Dalton Connect said he came to Tennessee because he wanted to be coached hard. And so Rick Barnes knows he's got the green light to treat him just like everyone else. And that's great to have a superstar that sells the same standard.
Coach B, in particular, when the game was in Nashville, as I was growing up, the Tennessee-Vanderbilt game was nasty. A lot of orange throwing, Mears incited a lot of it. Because it seemed to really bother Roy Skinner that there was sort of this circus act coming to town that would incite the crowd and all that kind of stuff. And it appeared that Mears loved it.
Well, he was very calculating in the way he did it, the way he walked around the court, the way he had Big Skinner, the track athlete, there to protect everything, who, by the way, went straight into the stands for a loose ball that the Vanderbilt student body had and didn't hesitate. And he got a ball, and no one said anything to him. But it was nasty. It was very almost unsportsmanlike in a lot of ways, because and Coach Skinner really got along with all the coaches in the league, but except one, and we know who that was. He just didn't like the showmanship and all of the collateral things that went on in their program.
So Ray did that on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. Yeah, and he made his slow and deliberate walk around the court, almost daring the student section to say what they wanted to say to him. And he got an earful every time. And he used that to motivate his own team.
Is he from the state?
No.
Okay.
No, he's from, I think, wasn't Mears from Ohio?
Yes. He was a Wittenberg, and he was not what I would call a hot name on the coaching list, but he got that job in the early 60s, and Danny Schultz, was a star player for him during those years. And man, I just love being a part of that rivalry and seeing what they did and what we tried to do to stop them, what they tried to do to stop us, and it was my favorite rivalry, actually.
Needs to be back.
Yeah, well, Coach B, I don't know what to say there. Coach B, wasn't the other thing that the league really needed some selling of basketball?
Yeah, around the league, right up until the middle to late 60s, everybody had these really crackerbox gymnasiums and not really well attended. And next thing you know, you've got Auburn, you've got Georgia, and these people filling up these arenas. And they were very careful because they were averaging somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 fans a game, maybe less in some cases. And then what was really funny is everyone, they came out and took pictures every time Maravich came to town because it would fill the place up. And they took brochure pictures when the crowds were there. But if they took them at a lot of the games in the league at that time, it would be like a Memorial Gym is right now.
Would I be right? Vandy, Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe a little bit Mississippi State back then were the only ones that took it seriously.
Well, yeah, they didn't. There was a train of thought that was pretty common around the league that you can't have a great football program and a basketball program. There was a feeling that if they emphasized basketball, then football would take a hit. And that was one of the Ray Mears' huge axes to grind, because one of those guys around the league was Tom Seiler, who was the sports editor of the News Sentinel in Knoxville. And he made it known and wrote about the fact that you can't have great programs in both. You didn't want basketball to interfere with football, and he had to fight that battle the whole time he was there.
Billy, here's one you don't know. So Mears had this television show that would come on every Saturday at 1:30 p.m., and the one game of the week you would get to see, the SEC game of the week, was at 2 o'clock. And there was a segment at the very end, and Coach B knows exactly where I'm going, where
I do.
Where there would be the picking of, that they would go through the games. Tonight, Alabama is at Kentucky, and they had a sports writer pick the games, and that sports writer was Rick Byrd's father.
Wow.
The late great Ben Byrd. How about that?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you just stick around us, you'll learn some things.
Ben Byrd was a really quality person, really high ethical guy. But I guarantee you one thing: he never picked the Vols to get beat in that segment, no matter who they were playing. The Celtics, even.
Right, Tennessee. It would be close, but we're going with Tennessee.
Yeah, I think tonight the Vols are going to be ready.
We'll go to the break. I've left a lot of meat on the bone. I had no idea when we started the show today that we were going to go this deep down memory lane. For me, it's been a blast. Kelly will join after the break, and who knows, we may actually get into some hoops present day. And then we'll go to St. Louis late in the show and get an update on what appears to be an early rout for Belmont against Valpo in the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament. Stay tuned. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
This has been an incredibly fun show for me. We've gone down memory lane of SEC basketball, first with former Mississippi State coach Richard Williams, and now with Coach Ron Bargatze for his weekly Thursday visit. Kelly, we may break in the middle of your talking with Coach B to get a report from St. Louis with Ty Willemeyer from the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. But go ahead with Coach B.
Kind of just wish y'all would keep going down memory lane, man. I don't know some of these stories. It's like recollection. I can remember some of them, but like I enjoy this. I feel bad about just asking regular basketball questions. You know what I'm saying, Coach?
Take it wherever you want, Kelly.
Hey, how many games did you do at the state championship the other day?
2 last week and 2 this week coming up.
Oh, you got 2 this week? Who you got this week?
Single A and triple A girls.
AAA girls. I got you. Well, I got to meet Coach B the other day at Tennessee Tech. I was a little upset that he didn't lean over and tell Joe Fisher that his Band-Aid that he cut himself shaving that morning, he didn't tell him that it was off. I mean, what are you doing, Coach B?
Joe gave him only the good side and kept the cameras to his left, and he leaned right. So Joe had a little shaving accident, and I wanted to tell him, I wanted to fix it for him, but I just didn't have the heart to do it.
I mean, yeah, that's the kind of guy that when you got a booger in your nose, you don't tell anybody, Coach B.
Oh,
What's up,
gosh.
man? You know what I'm saying?
No, it's a spinach on your teeth. Come on. You went deep Fayetteville on me there.
Kelly, thank you. Very descriptive.
This has been awesome.
Absolutely. Coach, so when we had Coach Williams on, he was talking about, Kentucky and the pressure at Kentucky, and that team has been up and down, but he talked about how the fans were like, if you don't win, they don't worry about the conference championship. They're looking for a national championship, and it's been a while since they've sniffed a national championship. Like, how's Calipari staying there?
Well, I don't know. He's a Teflon man. He doesn't let it sink in very much, but he's got a team that can be a feast or famine type team. They've got some good scorers. They've got some very athletic guys. Dillingham scares me to death. He is such a threat to score from anywhere, and Reeves is awfully good. Shepard's good. Their inside game has not been as strong offensively as they would like, probably, but I saw where Coach Stackhouse thought they might go on a deep run into the tournament. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, so if they learn how to play defense, I mean, they got a shot, don't you think?
They're pretty kind of porous on defense, and they turn the ball over more than they ought to, but they've certainly got some talent on that team.
So just looking all over the country, if you were coaching against the kid from Purdue, the big tall kid that's 7'5", how would you defend him?
I don't know. I mean, he has got such height and reach, and he catches balls you think are going to be turnovers, and he pulls them down. And Eden is very, very, very problem for everyone. Now,
okay, Coach B, let me stop you there if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to St. Louis really quick and find out from our Ty Wellemeyer exactly why Belmont is killing Valpo. Ty, take it away.
I mean, what can I say? Valpo can't hit a shot. Belmont's hitting everything, whether it's a three-pointer, inside the paint. It's pure domination from the Bruins. The Beacons, they're getting good looks. Cooper Schwieger won Freshman of the Year yesterday. Just not finding the shots this time. Isaiah Stafford can't buy a basket. So, yeah, I mean, everything's gone wrong for the Beacons. Everything's gone right for the Bruins. What can I say?
Which is the scenario. It's the perfect scenario because it would appear that they could really rest the regulars a ton in the second half and be much more fresh, depending on how far this run goes. I mean, it's got to be the perfect recipe.
I mean, yeah, we started seeing that towards the end of the first half. Casey Alexander took out Kay Tyson, Jacoby Gillespie, and Malik Dia and put in more of the bench guys, making sure they got that rest. And it's still working. Belmont's still dominating. He's kind of playing Dia a little bit. Tyson kind of comes on. But, yeah, I assume we're going to see the bench guys a lot in the second half for that matchup against Northern Iowa tomorrow.
Who really starred for him in the first half?
I mean, that trio of Tyson, Gillespie, and Dia all did really, really well. Dia had a couple nasty dunks on the Beacons defenders. He showboated a little. Casey Alexander did not like that. But Dia's just dominating. Tyson, Gillespie are giving the Beacons defenders headaches. It's just those three. And then you have the supporting cast who can get a bucket or two when needed.
So they're headed tomorrow, same time against Northern Iowa. What kind of contingents Belmont got there?
Contingents, so we have a student caravan at the moment, probably about 15 students, and there's a decent crowd for it being a Thursday at 2:30 with a 5-hour drive from Nashville to St. Louis. So, I mean, it's a nice little crowd, but there's definitely – I'm sitting in front of a lot of Southern Illinois fans who are just there for the vibes, and they're pretty crazy right now, let's just say that. So there's definitely a good atmosphere here for Arch Madness at the moment. So I'm just excited to be here. It's the dream.
Billy, what's the score at halftime?
The score at the half, I just had it pulled up. It's not even close. 48-22.
It's 48-22. It was like 30. It was 38-14 at one point. I mean, Belmont didn't score for 4 minutes. They didn't even break a sweat. That's how much of a blowout this game is.
Okay, do this for us. Let's sort of plan that we're going to do the same thing tomorrow at halftime of the Northern Iowa game. By the way, where you are is where the St. Louis Blues play, so get them a big L. The Preds need all the help they can get.
I'm going to try my best. I'll let them know.
Thanks, Ty.
Thank you.
Ty Wellemeyer reporting from the Scott Trade Center in St. Louis, where the Missouri Valley Conference tournament is going on. Coach B, how little would you play those starters in the second half?
Well, I don't think you want a team to get a little happy and loose. I think Casey, that's what he's telling them to do. We've got to execute. We don't want to go in the wrong direction. They've come back after having Gillespie out for all those games and had a nice run. I guess they won 7 out of 8 or 8 out of 9. But Belmont's one of the few teams in the country that's had all these 20-win seasons back to back to back here, and they have a chance, I think, to get their 20th win today. And they take a lot of pride in that overall record all those years. So Casey's kept it going when Rick Byrd stepped down.
Okay, 48-22 Belmont at halftime against Valpo. If they hold on, and there's every reason to think they will, they'll get Northern Iowa tomorrow at 2:30. Murray State got bounced. They got just absolutely clobbered by Missouri State. Kelly, it's all yours.
Coach, so UT, I even asked you this last week, and I've asked a couple of guys, but they've come through. They beat Auburn in the regular a couple of weeks, or last week, I guess. Auburn at home. They beat Alabama on the road after Alabama had won 16 in a row at home. They go to South Carolina after South Carolina drubs them in Knoxville. They win that game. So they're 3-0 against a really tough stretch, and they got Kentucky at home. And I've said if they win those games, I mean, don't they need to be considered a number 1 seed? And why is everybody saying not that's not true?
Well, I don't think anyone with a basketball background could dispute them being a number 1 seed. Now, who knows on those top 6 or 7 seeds who's going to survive and advance? But I think they've earned their number 1 seed without any question. And to go through a very, very difficult SEC with 3 losses would be awesome if they can beat Kentucky and do that.
So what do you do as a coach? I mean, you're going to the NCAA tournament. You got a chance to be a number 1 seed. And I know you want to go into the tournament, and it, just like you said, you want to be honed, your skills want to be right, your fundamentals want to be right. You want to go win the SEC tournament, but that's really not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to win a national championship. How do you balance that as a coach?
Well, I think you just take next team up and prepare for them and have your culture kick in. But there's no question that Rick Barnes has done a phenomenal job in that position. He's got an extremely good team, a deep team. They're getting a lot of help off the bench when they need to. They've got the superstar in Connect, but he doesn't act like or he's not a superstar in his own mind. He just does what the system allows him to do. And, he'll go along, be quiet for a few minutes, and then, boom, he hits 3 baskets in a row and turns the whole game around. But I think one of the best compliments that Rick Barnes and Dalton Connect could have for him to say, I went to Tennessee because I wanted to be coached hard. And that says a lot about the player. And Rick Barnes has obliged him in every way. And he does not let him get away with anything that he shouldn't do. And I think that's helped the player and it's helped the team. Back about 12 or 13 games ago, he had an off night and everybody came together, and James had high double figures and guys, and of course, Ziegler's there about every night. Vescovy is there about every night, but not numerically in terms of the stats. But I just love the way that they play as a team and the culture they've developed throughout this, particularly this last half of the season. Great chemistry, great culture.
You're absolutely right when you talk about Coach Barnes is obliging him with that because he plays no games. But I was reading an article today, and I want to get your thoughts on this because the NCAA tournament's been around for a while, but they're talking about expanding from 64 teams to something, and somebody said maybe 72 teams. What are your thoughts on that? Is that too many? I mean, I think 64 is the right number.
It seems like it. I have no idea why they feel. I mean, it's 68 teams, and that seems to be a good number. It certainly holds those teams on the bubble to a high standard, and it gives you as much time as you really need to build up March Madness the way it's become in all of our hearts and minds.
So this will be my last question. We talked about it the other day. George was talking about it, following the legend, and I'm going to Duke. Well, what do you think about that John Shire guy? What kind of job has he done after Mike Krzyzewski been there for so many years, won so many games, won so many national championships, had so many great players? It's hard to fill those shoes. But what do you think? How do you think he's done so far?
Well, Mike Krzyzewski was hung in effigy in his early years there as Duke's head coach. And that didn't faze him at all. He kept on doing what he thought was the right thing. And now he's one of the most iconic coaches to ever sit on the bench.
Yeah. So what do you think about John Shire? I mean, do you think that he's represented that? Yeah.
I think it's way too early to try to evaluate him. He seems like a pleasant guy. I like the way he handles the bench. He's not quite as crusty and edgy as Coach K was, but I'm sure that if he loses too many games, that edginess is going to come naturally to him.
And we talked about this too earlier, and I kind of said this, and I asked Richard Williams. Well, I didn't ask him, but I talked to Billy and George about this. Like they were bringing up old days, like he's been doing with you in the SEC, talking about Hugh Durham and Wimp Sanderson, some of those great coaches. They had personalities, but it seems like in today's coaching, all these young guys seem a little robotic to me. They don't seem like there's the guys of old that had these great personalities that were rough guys, but they had a sense of humor. It don't look like these young guys. These young guys look like they're offended. Do you get that?
Well, yeah, and I think one of the real fun rivalries has been Alabama-Auburn. When Sonny Smith was at Auburn and Wimp was at Alabama, those guys had more fun with that rivalry. They both just laughed their way to the bank and made a lot of money on that rivalry and on their media, the media that they developed as time went on. But there's been some real characters in the SEC. Someday we ought to sit down and go back and tell a lot of the evolution of the game. And when Press Maravich bringing his son to the SEC, Perry Wallace breaking the color barrier. My first year at Vanderbilt, there were 10 teams in the SEC, and there was only 2 black players my first year, Perry Wallace and Henry Harris at Auburn. And the year I left and Vanderbilt, there were 43 black starters in the league and only 7 white starters. So there was a lot of change going on during those years.
Absolutely.
Coach B, I know you remember this when CM brought an all African American starting 5 to Alabama. People were up in arms, couldn't believe it.
Well, Leon Douglas and Wendell Hudson and T.R. Dunn put a quick stop to that criticism because, first of all, they won games and they did it in a class manner. They had some really class people, Alabama guys, if you will, who not only broke the color barrier, but broke down a lot of those old traditions and those underdog games that Alabama went through with all those white guys for a long time. So it was a welcome change.
Coach B, you talk about that era. I mean, and you were coaching in it. What was that like as a coach? Because as a coach, you're a leader of a team, and you you got to recruit the players to your team. What was the challenge of doing that? And kind of, you want to bring the best players to campus, but you also want the community and the city around you to respect you and appreciate what you're doing. So how hard was that, kind of, mixing it up? And you said the Alabama first starting five. What was that era like?
Well, I hated playing against them. Our buddy Lee Fowler had one of my favorite quotes in the history of my coaching career. And we were playing them in a freshman team game. And they had Raymond Odoms and Charles Cleveland, some of those kind of guys playing. And they were up on us about 42-19 at the halftime. And I looked at Fowler and I said, Lee, you haven't shown up the whole game. What's wrong with you tonight? He says, Coach, I've got the slows. Well, he not only had them that night, but against that kind of quickness, he had them every night.
Yeah.
Nothing against Lee, but man, those guys you had to really up your game to compete against some of those early teams that CM had in there.
Coach B, when you brought up T.R. Dunn, at Coach Newton's service, I made a point to try to go see T.R. Dunn. And what I told him after the service was over, I said, look, I don't have any proof of this. I said, but I'm convinced you were Coach Newton's favorite player of all time. And he looked at me and he said, why do you think that? And I said, Coach Newton invited me over to the house to watch you guard Michael Jordan one night. This was like 1984. And I told him, I said, you backed Jordan into a corner where Jordan had to throw an absolutely wild shot that went way over the backboard. And I said, Coach Newton jumped out of his chair yelling, encouraging you. I said, I had never seen that level of excitement in him. And T.R. Dunn looked at me and he goes, are you serious? I was like, yep, absolutely. I said, I saw it.
Well,
so that was
Tim was a very kind of a stoic guy on the bench for the most part. Wimp was scowling and jumping up and down, and Sim was the cooler head of the two. And it's funny to play against and coach against those two guys and that Alabama team that was taking off that personality. In '74, we won the SEC because we tied with Alabama, and because they were hosting Mid-East Regional first round game, they could not go and play. So we got to represent the SEC that year, and it was held in that same Coleman Coliseum,
yes,
where we had played them. And Janvier Bredikov made a block against Leon Douglas's jump shot on the baseline late in that game, and I could hear Paul Eels calling that all the way from the bench. It was a phenomenal night, and it was a big boost in our basketball history.
So, Kelly, it can now be revealed. I was in 9th grade at the time, and I won a lottery for tickets, and it was the only time my parents ever put up with this. If BGA's wondering why I was not there for 2 days, I was in Tuscaloosa at the Mid-East Regionals.
I don't think they care, George.
I don't think they cared either. I think as long as they got the tuition money, that's all that mattered.
Correct.
Hey, George, we had an easy first round game against Marquette.
No.
I mean, probably the best Marquette team ever.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Coach B, thank you as always.
Yes, sir.
See you, brother.
Good stuff. A little trip down memory lane today. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't, we'll return to our regularly scheduled programming.
We're going to get
already
back into the 21st
progress.
century?
Yeah, probably.
I'm kidding.
That was unnecessary. That really.
That was pretty funny, Billy. I liked it. Wow. I wish I would have just kept going, though. I mean, I had to ask questions about now. I enjoyed that going down memory lane. That was pretty cool because it did bring up a couple of things. I mean, more people, obviously, and more of the coaches than I knew back in the day. But like that was pretty cool to go down and remember some of that stuff. And I remember Wimp Sanderson because being from Fayetteville, man, we would used to when I was at Fayetteville City Junior High. I remember our coach that was our PE teacher would always let us watch the SEC tournament, and I can remember Wimp in that plaid coat, yelling. It was fun. I enjoyed that.
He was a piece of work. Okay, we'll go to our final break. we'll get a March Madness scoreboard update and then plaster bets of the day, which I know you want.
Oh,
or do you?
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Kicking off final segment with the final March Madness segment of the day, brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. Visit her at mortgagelady.usa.com. Got a couple of finals from earlier today to start with. They always start early on these conference tournament days. Georgia Southern beat South Alabama 76-71 in the Sun Belt tournament. And Missouri State beat Murray State 60-35. Really, really awful showing for Murray State there, and their season is over. Coastal Carolina trails Louisiana in the Sun Belt so far, 66-47. So early, some blowouts here. Belmont all over Valpo right now, 53-24. 16.5 to play in that one. Malik Dia, 17 points. He is dominating that game. So that's what we got on the men's side. On the women's side of things, Tennessee and Kentucky. That was at the half earlier as I try to find it again. Might take a little bit here.
Might be a fine.
Another fine.
Oh, absolutely. Since Murray State lost, Billy, does that mean you're no longer going to wear the Murray State Racers yellow pullover?
I support their baseball program. But Tennessee, the Lady Vols beat Kentucky 76-62, so they are moving on. And then earlier today, Texas A&M beat Mississippi State 72-56.
So when you have the early game that starts at noon, when there are 4 games, usually noon, 2:30, 6, and 8:30. Kelly, I have seen some people who've been on press road too long, and especially if one of the games goes long, and all of a sudden the 8:30 game starts about 9:15, by about 11, you see some people just sort of.
Who's staying there? They got people staying there all day.
Yeah, media people do. If they're covering all the different games, you'll see it next week at the SEC tournament.
I didn't know.
I was kind of worried about Coach B the other day when I was at the game that he was announcing. I thought he was going to fall asleep a couple of times.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll pass that on to him. Okay, here's something nobody should fall asleep on. Oh, now we've
certainly
got.
not.
No, what was that?
Well, there's a little cough.
Okay.
You've never had that.
Read on.
Plaster's Bet of the Day brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. Let's see what happened last night. Minnesota L, and I meant to. Northwestern was a win, so I meant to.
Damn right it was.
I meant to make that green, and it looks like the record is wrong as well.
Yes,
so I'm not used to.
So let's go with 51 and 61.
Yeah,
2-1 last night. Kelly, things are starting to look up. Mostly because they had nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, I don't know, George. 52 and 61. You're still quite a bit away.
Here we go. Thank you for your support.
Exactly. That's what I'm here for.
We're going to take Illinois tonight in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. Illinois State, for one reason, Evansville sucks. That's a bad basketball team. They're just not very good. Illinois State, they got to win. It's got a little Valpo written all over it.
Kevin Stallings' old stomping grounds.
Yes. Item number 2, and I feel strongly about this one. Oregon at home. They take care of business.
Okay.
Quack attack.
Okay.
You got that?
Phil Knight University. Let's go Ducks.
Let's wear green. Quack attack. Oregon, pretty good basketball team. Colorado, pretty good. Not good enough to beat Oregon in Eugene. Third game. Morehead State in the OVC tournament. This is the quarterfinal matchup tonight. Morehead State is the class of that league, and I think it is by a pretty considerable amount. This game is in Evansville at the, I guess it's the Ford Center up there. And
they've got a really good player, Riley Minix, who was their player of the year in that conference. Watch that game tonight. He's a heck of a player.
Billy, $50 to you if you know anybody on SIU Edwardsville.
Yeah, there were twins. Wright, Lamar Wright, not Lorenzen. Their father, I think, was Lorenzen Wright.
Oh, the one at Memphis.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Lamar Wright is one of them, and there's a twin brother. That's all I know.
I said Billy, not George.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's SIUE, not necessarily the Memphis Tigers.
Preds close out a 5-game homestand tonight against Buffalo at 7:00. Kelly, I know you will not be with us tomorrow, but we look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I figured you were going to say you look forward to not having me on tomorrow.
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Kelly, I don't. Enjoy Fayetteville.
That's messed up, Billy, because you know that you don't care either.
No, I care.
No, you don't.
care. No,
You're so full. You're so full of crap, Billy. You've already showed that you're full of crap. So
you've indicated that you've been thrilled when he's been gone. Okay, on that, we're done.
See y'all.
See you tomorrow.
Right. See ya.